It certainly was key for me in wanting to do this show. I mean, when Gina brought the initial idea to me and said, "Do you want to develop this into a series?" I said, "Yeah, I mean, it sounds great to run around Europe and do all of that, but what really appealed to me was the emotional part of it."
Yeah.
And as a feature writer who's never done television before, what appealed to me about it was being able to live with these characters over a longer period of time and really delve into them and develop them. So it's fun to write about the boats chasing each other and the cars and jumping over stuff and whatever. But what really gets me about the show is the heart of it, the emotional content of it.
And I think in the very beginning, when we were thinking about how can we do a show that feels international, how can we do a show that feels global, that brings people together for one experience all over the world, there was a lot of ideas we were thinking about. It's Interpol, it's agents from different, agencies from around the world, and they're tracking this, and there's stolen maps. And I literally was bored out of my mind,
Yeah.
because I didn't care. And when we sort of hooked into, it's about this mother searching for her son who has a past and who left this life behind, I cared. I'm interested, So for us, it was that's the journey of the, first season.
I do like to fight. I like to fight. Some stunts for insurance purposes, of course, it's not appropriate for me to do. As fun as it might be, I don't throw myself through plate glass windows, for example. However, I will fight. I, for some reason, really like it. And it's, as I indicated last night, kind of a conversation to have at a different time in a different place, and it has many facets to it. In spite of the fact that I personally am a pacifist, I think in this world it can be very appropriate for women in particular to learn to speak the language of violence. And I'm extremely aware that I do so in a way where I can say stop, where I can say cut, where if I want to, I can have on safety equipment underneath my costume. That is not the case for the majority of girls and women living in a world where gender violence is a daily reality. So in a way, for me to fight on film is a symbolic expression for me personally of women everywhere being able to fight back. Well, I think that you've stumbled upon what the essence of the show's DNA is for the creators and for the cast. It's about family, it's about relationship, it's about how we make meaning. It's the very stuff of which our values are constructed, which is this interdependence of family relationships. And in a way, the show is a family drama disguised as a thriller or as a spy show. And I do think that's part of the fantasy, that first of all, there's that, morbid reflection of what if that ever happened to my child or my niece or my nephew or any young person about whom I care. And then the revenge fantasy, what if I could take action myself? Well, one of the things that I find very charming is that the genesis of the show was between a married couple who also have a production company, and they were filming something in an American town which shall remain nameless that they found uniquely dissatisfying. It was hot, it was humid, food wasn't all that good, and they started daydreaming about, both in their marriage and in their professional life, where do we want to live? Where do we want to go? And they had a dream about shooting in the greatest locations in Europe. And then they said, how do we write an unforgettable story that people will love set in those places? And that became missing. And the locations hopefully will be a vicarious pleasure for North American audiences who perhaps have never been to those places or won't ever go. Hopefully rewarding for European audiences who will see their places they know and love. And the idea, who knows if it will happen, and if the show is even continued for additional seasons, but the idea was that each season would take place in a different continent. And we worked really hard to bring big visual impact to each episode. So Istanbul, for example, which has been very rarely filmed, was a place that we chose because it is so big and exotic and exquisite. So we thought, okay, Istanbul, let's write for Istanbul. How can we make unforgettable show in Istanbul? And the hotel list got scratched. We were in all kinds of hotels.
I think it's always easier to work with such good actors, because they can do even your job. Sometimes maybe you don't know how to deal with the scene, so you just sit there and watch and you react to what you're seeing. And I know good actors, very easy, and she knows everything. She's so professional, so clever in the way she deal with the scene. But all of them, I did a lot of scenes with her. And you know what? In this show was interesting because, actors. I was from Italy, and then English, and then New Zealand, US, and so different backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, and we were working together in the same scene, and was very interesting for me to see how the different cultural approach for the scene, for that line, and very interesting that, and it's not easy to have the chance to having the same scene like actors from 5 different countries, 5 different cultural backgrounds.
No, it's wonderful to be here. Yeah, I never would have imagined as a kid I'd be running around in Europe, with movie stars and sitting by the pool in Cannes in France. I mean, when I grew up, I didn't even know there was a place called Cannes. I thought it was something that you got your baked beans out of. What's interesting and challenging about the show is that at the heart of the show, it's about family, about a woman who's looking for a son, who'd left all of that behind, but her past it's catching up with her. She thought she'd never have to deal with that world anymore, but now her son's gone missing. She has to kind of deal with it, and she has to save her family. So she has to go back into this world. My character is the head of the CIA in Europe. It's Dax Miller. And that's pretty good for me, coming from where I come from. But they couldn't find another American in the world to play the role. And they had to get me. I'm a Maori, an indigenous person from New Zealand, to play the head of the CIA, which is funny. But it's great because it's not a stereotypical ethnic role, I'm not being stereotyped. There's it's a sign of evolution in terms of how Americans see themselves. Well, you see, the thing is, I really like the running around with guns and action. I actually really I enjoy it. I know it's shallow, and it's a typical male action movie entertainment, but I like it. I like the Bourne Identity. I like Taken. I enjoy watching the Bond franchise as it evolves. I enjoy these things on an entertainment level. But with this, with Ashley Judd, she's actually got emotion, and she struggles with what it is she has to do in order to save her son. And so you're dealing with this emotional sort of like reality, which is usually not included in this genre. And because she's such a fine actor, she pulls it off, And that's going to be very interesting to see how the audience sort of has this sort of action genre with an emotional center. I don't think that's really been done effectively before.